Okay, here goes. God, this is the hardest video I've done yet. I really had to think about this one. Chris, one of my good customers and listeners, asked me to talk about myself, my background, and man, I talk about craft and witchcraft and stuff. I don't even need to think about it. But I had to sit here and think about what I was going to say about this. But you know, Chris, I feel like I know you already, so hell, I should do that. And it occurs to me that. My marketing goddess has told me the same thing. I need a bio. I don't have a bio. I'm a man of mystery, perhaps too much. Um, so I will attempt to tell parts of my story. In this part, I'll try to keep 10 minutes. Chris wanted to know if I was raised in Strega, if I was in a Strega family. Um, yes, I was, I think. And I think they did not know that. uh, I was born this way. I was born thinking like I'm thinking now, and it took me a long time to piece it all together. And I think around 9 years old, I pieced something together. Tried to explain that to my parents. Very Catholic, Irish Catholic on my mom's side, Italian Catholic on the dad's side, um, Catholic. and when I tried to explain it at 9 years old, even though I didn't know that there was witchcraft or anything, I personally I thought it was something I made up in my head. I made up my own religion in my head. It just kind of evolved. I didn't really even make it up. It just kind of was there, and I just kind of already thought that way. When I tried to explain it to my Catholic parents, I learned all of our people learned throughout history. They'll slap you upside the head, and what we learn is to shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. Don't talk to them. They're not going to get it. And then I learned something else really important that happened all over the world, and a weird twist happens where St. Patrick and his cohorts came up with creative ideas of changing the pagan gods into saints back in old Ireland. Somehow that turned against them, and everywhere in the world where the Catholic Church is really strong, we find witchcraft that survives hidden within Catholicism, where they don't even know they're doing it anymore. So my parents were staunchly Catholic, but my dad had taught me the evil eye and the counter spell by the time I was 10. He knew it, but he was Catholic. And later, way down the road, after I think my mom was figuring out that they had not beaten the witchcraft out of me. I was about like 13 years old. I just recall this story of my mother outside the window of the house. I heard her out there muttering early in the morning. I went out and stood behind her, and she had a Bible, and she was kneeling in front of this rose bush, reading out of the Bible, reading out of the Bible. And I was polite. I waited for her to stop. Hey, what are you doing, Mom? And she told me, well, I heard that if you say this prayer to Mary, to a rose bush, it'll make the rose bush bloom. I thought about it for a minute. I said, so, Mom, you're telling me that you're praying to the female form of divinity to make the plants grow? And yet our people seem to have been at war for thousands of years. Craft hid in Catholicism while Catholicism was trying to destroy it. We find strains of voodoo did this, Strega did this, plenty of South American occult practices, what we would call witchcraft from our perspective, all under Catholicism. Santeria very much has a lot of that. So anyways, that's going off on a history rant. I'm already 4 minutes into it. About 13 years old, I found this place called the Eye of the Cat in Long Beach, and that changed everything. I started reading. I remember starting with like the Grimoires of Solomon, really heady books. For some reason, I had this proclivity right away to look at these indecipherable magical texts, and it made sense to me. There's patterns in magic that just made sense to me right away. And the more I hung out there and talked to these people, the more I realized that this was the religion that I thought I made up in my head. This is the way I always was, and there's these other people out there in the world doing that. That was an awakening for me there. So, okay, well, I am at work, so I had to help a customer really quick. Okay, back to what I was talking about. Somewhere around this time where I'm hanging out at this cult store, I spent all my time there. I started ditching school a lot. It's amazing I made it through junior high. By the time I made it to high school, I don't think I made it through the first year of high school. They kicked me out for not going enough, and I was going to go to the gang-ridden high school. The last high school they would have sent me to was all just gangs in Long Beach, and so I took the GED, got the hell out of high school, studied witchcraft full time, started taking these classes, ended up in the middle of this very old craft tradition called the Druidic Craft of the Wise. Very old dirt tradition, stretching its, came down from the Ozarks one day, one of those just hill traditions, as American as apple pie. Though called the Druidic Craft of the Wise, there's really nothing druidical in that craft, specifically druidical, that I find. But it was a name that they gave to it. Within this what I found was huge organization, I became the youngest teacher, the youngest priest, then the youngest high priest. Still can't be elder because I'm not old enough. So really, there's still people back home that probably think of me as a kid because I was a kid. Back then, they knew me as Igor when I came on their scene. So it's been a very long time there, most of my life. And within the Druidic Craft of the Wise, I came to know OTO members, Gardnerians, fairy faith practitioners, and a heap of Strega. One of my teachers was very into the Strega, and me and him, we studied it on the side. So although we are under this umbrella group of the Druidic Craft of the Wise, within the Druidic Craft of the Wise, I learned many traditions. The Druidic Craft of the Wise itself would be more akin to root working and hoodoo, dirt stick magic, but then some really high, heady stuff on top of the dirt stick magic. And so, some very scientific components. I am probably a product of that. The more that I go and look at the Druidic Craft of the Wise, people that are still out there teaching, that craft is still, as bizarre as it is, very strange craft, very rich in its history, strange tales, but a lot of it's in me. The scientific approach to dirt stick magic, born into me from the Druidic Craft of the Wise. In there, I learned Strega, studied it with my teacher. I was initiated into other traditions while in the Druidic Craft of the Wise. Like I said, we had OTO members that were also members of the Druidic Craft of the Wise. Now, as it stands now, my parent tradition is, to say it nicely, a series of factions that believe they disagree. I have come to study with both of the main factions of my tradition over the last couple of years through an assumed name, and I came to find no difference in the two main factions of my tradition that believe they disagree. So I liken them to the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims. They all come from the same book, yet they believe that they disagree about something in the book. So there's probably a lot you can look up on the Druidic Craft of the Wise, but you'll be getting the different factions' perspective of the different things. Very, very interesting tradition. Now, in that, I was at this the Eye of the Cat store learning that craft, and I think I'm already approaching the 10 minutes, so I'm going to have to make this one at least a two-parter. I knew that. But for Chris or anybody else want to know, a bio for your dear Uncle Birch. This will be part one, I guess. I'll think of more to say, I think.